Hello and good afternoon, or actually good morning, Xbox Nation. That is right. We are starting 30 minutes earlier today because I have to be out of here by 2 o'clock to take care of some family business. Of course, this is the Xbox Factor podcast, and I am one of your hosts, Mr. Boomstick XL, and we have not only some amazing topics, but we have an outstanding panel. Now, you are going to notice that there are some people missing. Joe, Mr. Badbit, is running just a few minutes late, and he'll be joining us momentarily. And Boxer Bear, known aka as Archimedes, is currently at a doctor's appointment, making sure that everything is good to go with his sprained ankle. He will be returning to the chair next Thursday as normal. And of course, we're going to get into the introductions. Now, first up, we're going to go with the guy that I always say is the cog that keeps this particular podcast not only going, but on track. Semi Games, welcome to the show, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you once again. You know, what was it, like a year ago, whenever I sent you the message and was like, hey, I want to be on the Xbox Factor podcast. Well, thank you so much for giving me the chance and welcoming on the show as a permanent member, man.
Well, it's literally the least I can do. You bring a lot of greatness to the show, and I definitely appreciate you, hanging out with us each and every Thursday.
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But man, I am super excited. We just had our the great debate yesterday. That was a lot of fun. I really want to do that with you. You know, the next time we have a topic that is warranted for a great debate. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. But now we get to talk about all the new recent news that is about Xbox this week. So I can't wait to jump into that.
Yeah, well, thank you again for being here. And yes, the yesterday's show, if you missed it, it's the first one we've ever done, and it wasn't a debate like the presidential debate where people were actually cursing and wanting to
we weren't talking over each other's microphones.
No,
you could understand what each of us was saying.
It was a very, very casual, respectful conversation where opinions were, we did have different opinions on it, but the way that we broke it down was very interesting, very thought provoking, I might add, and it was at the end of the day, fun, folks. That's what these podcasts are supposed to be. You're supposed to have fun listening to them. So next up, you know him as someone that is relatively new to the community, but certainly making a big splash, not only being on this particular podcast on a weekly basis, he actually has hooked himself to others. VJ, is your tea hot, and are you ready to go?
Absolutely, Boom. Good morning to you, to Zemi. Really nice to meet you, VGHD. I think it's the first time we've ever spoke. Yeah, Boom, it's all your fault. I keep getting dragged into all these podcasts, but I'm loving it. And it's all down to you because all of the ones that I'm on, they have the utmost respect for you. And I think you're a very important leader in the community. And long may it remain like as that.
Oh, well, I'm always going to be who I am. What you see is what you get with me. I appreciate the compliment. And listen, again, I believe that is how you build an audience. I believe that's how you build trust with your audience, is being real, being forthcoming, being transparent. And I believe that I do bring that to the table, not just on this particular show, but every show that I do, because obviously not only am I representing my own brand, but I'm also representing the community. And I think that is what being a community leader is being a representation that includes everyone. Being inclusive is, I think, something that I am proud to do, and that is why we have all these different types of guests coming on. And speaking of new guests, we have someone making his debut on the Double Barrel Gaming Network. You see his avatar; it's VGHD, but you know him, and I know him as 3-Bit. 3-Bit, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, man. We were talking a little bit backstage or whatever you call it.
In the green room.
In the green room, yeah. And I just want to say again, thanks for inviting me on the podcast. I guess a little bit about me is I'm an animator in the industry. I started off creating comic books because my dad worked for Marvel, and he was
wow, dude, what a story. That's awesome.
Yeah. He was a comic book artist, and he would come home and bring me books from like Hulk and Avengers. And so I really grew up to love comic books, and fast forwarding years later, did some commercial work for Cartoon Network, and I currently work at Meta Studios, which is a cross media production company, and we kind of outsource for studios like 2K games and some other studios. So my schedule is very busy.
Oh, it sounds like, and especially now with the way the world is, you're working from home. I'm sure there's a lot more. It's amazing how much content as people that we have have taken on since being stuck at home with COVID. And that's why gaming has exploded on the scene. And I believe that even more types of media, comics, for instance, the actual physical comic is taking a big hit for both DC and Marvel. But of course, the digital aspect of it, now we can read books right on our tablets, which is pretty amazing, dude. This is fantastic. I'm glad to know your backstory, and again, I'm even more happy to have you. But my question to you, my friend, is: have you been reading The Three Jokers?
I heard about it, man.
Dude, it is so worthy of your time. I just got my episode. Issue 2 is on the way, and I've already ordered the 2 variants for issue 3. I haven't collected books in a while, but this particular one I'm going to. And keeping comic books in the conversation just for a second, because it's so relevant. Obviously, with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, our earlier in the month, it was devastating. And like I said, I saw this particular thing yesterday. I even tweeted at Todd McFarlane. I don't have the picture here. I'm gonna, while someone else is talking, I'm gonna try and find it and bring it up. He did a cover for Spawn 311, and it's Chadwick wearing the Spawn outfit with the Wakanda Forever, holding his arms across, and he's got like the Black Panther armor on. I'm talking about it. It's giving me goosebumps just talking about it. I'm gonna get the picture and show everybody. I ordered an issue of that. I'm getting it going into a frame for sure, because I'm a huge fan of Chadwick, and it actually brought me to tears yesterday because my wife and I just watched 21 Bridges, and I cannot believe that man is gone. It is just, wow. It's just still shocking to me. So real classy for Todd McFarlane again. But I know, folks, this is a video game podcast, and I don't think anybody else wants to hear my shenanigans. But look, I don't like to start with negativity. In fact, I don't bring negativity to the show. It is my personal goal as a content creator to keep it 100. But I have to bring this up because it's worthy at least of a 10-minute conversation. And late last evening, Geoff Kieghley, good old Geoff Kieghley. Now, I've talked about Geoff before. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I think what he represents in the industry is huge. I think his influence is handily pretty influential, in my opinion. And I think he holds a very prominent position in the gaming space. Whether you like him, you love him, you hate him, whatever, he is looked upon by many as an industry leader. And when you are an industry leader, you are expected to conduct yourself in a proper manner. And I believe that he once again has proven that not only is he capping for Sony, but that he has, I think, even overstepped his bounds, and I think disappointed a lot of people, including myself. And what am I talking about? Well, they always say that pictures are worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to bring it up. This was his tweet from last night. Now, let me just make it a single. Okay, here we go. He tweeted last night this: Cyberpunk 2077 ad with Keanu Reeves that just showed at the NBA Finals Game 1. Now, it's a still picture here, but it was an Xbox commercial, right? It was an Xbox commercial showing Cyberpunk, because they have the marketing rights. Now, up front, you may be like, well, I don't understand. Why is this a problem? Boom. Well, the problem isn't so much that he tweeted it. It's what he tweeted that became a problem. And it became such a problem, so much of a problem, that Microsoft has now responded. And that's why I decided to talk about it, because I think that if Microsoft was bothered by it, then it's probably worth a 5 or 10 minute conversation on an Xbox program. And what wound up happening at the end of this video is the last 4 minutes were cut off. 4 minutes. The last 4 seconds were cut off. Now I'm going to bring up what those 4 seconds were. It was this on the left, on the right hand side, or probably on the left of your screen. It says explore Night City on the all new Xbox Series X and S, and on the corner it says smart delivery. Obviously, it's an advertisement for not only the game, but of course the 2 consoles that are releasing in 40 days. Now, John Munsey. Now, before I get into what he said, let's see who he is. John Munsey is the senior marketing manager at Xbox, leading Xbox Series X and S for their advertisement. And obviously in his bio says tweets about gaming, marketing, Florida State, my dogs, thoughts and rambles are my own. And obviously you can, that's his gamer tag, BrightBoyGHA217. So he tweets this first. And he tweets, the last 4 seconds of the 30-second ad looked like this. And he puts what I have on the right-hand side of the screen. And then the second tweet is, and nice guest appearance by Series X and Series S, where he, of course, has the Geoff Kieghley tweet. Now, I understand this isn't breaking news. This isn't the Bethesda level purchase news. But here's the problem. The problem, at least in my opinion, is I hold myself tremendously accountable for what I say on the microphone or what I tweet or what I put out in a video. And again, I'm nobody and I totally get it. But I hold myself accountable because I have something called integrity. And I don't do things for clicks. I don't do things for likes or subs. What you see with Mr. Boomstick is what you get. I'm transparent as glass. I have my wife involved in my channel. Everyone knows her as Mrs. Boomstick. She talks to people in the chat. Everyone knows that I'm a retired New York City police officer. That's not being hidden. So I hold myself tremendously accountable. And when I make a mistake, I'll be the first one to be like, you know what? I was a dick. I did it. Shame on me. Please accept my apology. The reason why I bring up Geoff Kieghley in this is because this is schoolyard tactics, folks. This is behavior from a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old whose hormones are just getting into full-fledged explosions and they just don't know what to do with themselves. This is not the behavior of a paraprofessional who's considered an industry leader. And that is my problem with it. It isn't so much that I feel like, oh, there goes Geoff capping for Sony again. No. He can cap for whoever he wants. That's the great thing about fandom. That's the great thing about being a fan. I just think it's irresponsible. And I think that it is unbelievably beneath him to stoop to that kind of a level. Like, why would you purposely go out of your way to cut off the last 4 seconds? And again, folks, this would not even be a conversation if Munsey did not get involved from Microsoft marketing. They obviously felt the type of way about this. So, of course, I thought it was worthy of a few-minute conversation. So I want to go to our guest first on this. A 3-bit, listen, again, not the biggest story of the day, but I just think that it is unprofessional behavior by someone that's looked upon, again, as an industry leader to do this kind of schoolyard shenanigans. What are your thoughts on this, my friend?
Man, for some reason, this whole year he's been doing stuff like that. And whether it's where there was the Xbox event, right, where he still had Sony PlayStation 5 stuff pinned on his Twitter account, and he had people responding to him like, hey, why aren't you promoting Xbox at the Xbox event, right? And I think over time he cannot be trusted with the Xbox. I don't know. He for some reason he loves Sony. I don't know. He used to be an advocate for Xbox. If you look past his history, he promoted the Series X when it first launched, and that was pretty good, but every time Xbox comes out, it seems like he has some he's not as motivated. He's just like, yeah, Xbox, here's the controller and all this different stuff. But when PlayStation comes out, he's like, yay, he blows on the controller, does all this different stuff. I don't know. I think he's definitely a Sony fan for sure, but when you are in the industry, you have to sort of, like you said, take yourself, be held accountable for your actions. And I think this is brand new to me, and this is my first time seeing it, but he's done stuff like this since the beginning of the year. So I don't know. It was clear that it wasn't intentional, and I hope he comes out and says something, but I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And again, I want to repeat that this wouldn't even be a conversation if Munzie does not make a tweet on it, because, like I said, obviously it bothered them enough to have to respond to actually point out that the last 4 seconds of the video contained this still picture. So again, it's again not certainly not the biggest story of the day, but my God, Geoff, why is my question. So I'll go to VJ next on this. VJ, you have seen the industry from multiple views, which is an unbelievable thing. You've seen it from the marketing aspect, you've seen it from the development aspect, and now you're seeing it from the podcasting element. And that is pretty awesome to be able to say that you have this kind of experience in your life, where a lot of us have not experienced that. Like, we're just experiencing it through, social media and podcasting. When you see Geoff Kieghley, who is a prominent member of the industry, and consider, like I said again, an industry leader who holds a position that is quite high on the totem pole, do you feel disappointment? Do you feel anger? Do you feel frustration? Or do you just have more questions than answers?
I'll come to Geoff in just a second. I think that everything that you've just said, I've learned a lot being on your shows, Boom, so thank you for that. So I think that overall, that we all have a right to our own thoughts, beliefs, experience, intuitions, and we have our personal discernments, right, as well, regardless of how common or widely our viewpoints are accepted. So telling people that they should not have an alternative perspective to yours is definitely not okay. It's incredibly narcissistic and abusive, right? So it's okay to question, be wrong, and experiment to reach more precise conclusions. Geoff, and as we talked in the pre-show, holds a very powerful and prominent office and position, right? So he wields a lot of power. He knows the ultimate truth of it. We don't, but he should definitely take more care and bring people together rather than divide them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And there are a lot of people in the chat that are just showing up there, just wondering what we're talking about. Basically, not to again drag this through the mud, because I want to move on after we get Zemi's point of view. Is last night he tweeted about the Xbox commercial that showed up at the NBA Finals Game 1, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a big expense for Microsoft, and obviously they're promoting their partnership with CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077. In that tweet that he put out there, which again I will bring up on the screen for a hot second, so people, again, pictures are worth 1,000 words. His tweet was this: Cyberpunk 2077 ad with Keanu Reeves that just showed in the NBA Finals Game 1, and this particular still screen was a video, and in that video, it contained a 30-second commercial for Cyberpunk 2077, but the last 4 seconds were cut off. Suspicious? I don't know. On purpose, on purposely, on accident, accidentally on purpose. Listen, I'm not Geoff Kieghley. I couldn't tell you, but it wasn't just me that would have had a problem with this. Apparently, it was this gentleman right here, Josh Munzie, who is in charge and holds a senior position in marketing for Microsoft, and he decided to tweet about it, where he says, last 4 seconds of the 30-second ad look like this, #Power Your Dreams. And of course, it's showing the 2 consoles. It's showing Cyberpunk, and it's showing Smart Delivery in the corner. And then he follows that tweet with capping Geoff Kieghley's thing. It says it's a nice guest appearance by Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. Again, is it the biggest story of the day? No. But was it bothersome enough for Microsoft to say something? Indeed, it was. So again, I don't understand the motivation. I'm just perplexed by it. Zemi, listen, I know what your feelings are, but we'll get this, and we'll move on.
Sure.
When you see Geoff Kieghley, who again is an industry holds a tremendously high position within the industry and is constantly working with the likes of the heads of Nintendo and Bowser, the heads of Sony in Jim Ryan, and of course the head of Xbox and Phil Spencer. Are you shocked at this type of behavior?
No, I'm not shocked. I mean, to be honest, I'm not really shocked, and I'm not really all that bothered by it. And I will say this, like, like we were talking about pre-show, if Geoff Kieghley had this happen on the VGAs, right, then yes, there would be a huge problem with this, right? If the NBA cut or redacted the final 4 seconds of this advertisement during their halftime show or whenever this ad was getting played, then yes, I would have a huge problem with this. But there's definitely a lot of things to keep in mind here. And the first one being that, we don't know if Geoff Kieghley intentionally went into a video editing software and took out that final 4 seconds, or if it just so happened to be that was the video that he just got and someone else redacted that and he wasn't even paying attention, right? It could completely be an accident. And of course, I'm not saying that it is okay to redact anything, and posting. And I think, for integrity's sake, if you are posting something, you need to post the entire thing. For instance, if I was going to write an article, I'm going to include the entire quote of an article or of what, a individual said, rather than just the parts that, I might agree with, right? And so for integrity's sake, yes, it's not the greatest thing that, he posted a video that had the final 4 seconds of that advertisement redacted, but was it intentional? I don't know. You don't know. No one knows, right? Besides Geoff Kieghley. And for that reason, I'm not going to necessarily, condemn him or go after him or anything like that. Is it the most professional thing that he could have done? Absolutely not. But I think that is also another thing that we also have to think about as well, is that this is Geoff Keighley's personal Twitter, right? And Geoff Kieghley, his own ideas, and I understand that, there still needs to be professionalism online, and what you post online can definitely come, and bite you in your butt, right? I get that, right? But at the same point, this is his personal Twitter. It's not like it just got posted onto the official, Video Game Awards Twitter page or on, his specific website in a blog post or something along those lines that, kind of need as necessity a lot more professionalism and integrity, right? So, and I will also add to this as well. I know how you mentioned how the marketing guy had an issue with this, but just because that marketing guy had an issue with this, I wouldn't go as far to say as Microsoft has an issue with this. And the reason why I say that is because Steineken, who is, I believe, the head of the social media marketing or like the head of like the social media stuff, all the social media for Xbox. He replied to the tweet and he seemed to have really no issue with it. So, we come across a lot of, moments like this where someone posts something that, definitely could be perceived as bias, on their personal account. But I just think it's really, really important to remember, and give that person the benefit of the doubt that I think a lot of us would want to get. If I posted something like this and if I was in Geoff Keighley's shoes, I would definitely want people to give me the benefit of the doubt in the sense of, maybe I just didn't know that those final 4 seconds were redacted. I would want that. And because I would want that, the word is escaping me, but because I would want that benefit of the doubt, I'm going to give that benefit to doubt to Geoff in this certain situation. But once again, if this was in a more professional sense of it being aired on the VGAs and he had redacted 4 seconds of it, then I would absolutely have a huge problem with it.
I mean, listen, again, everyone is entitled to their opinion. I am not willing to give Geoff the benefit of the doubt that this was an accident or it was, it was someone else on his team that did it. Listen, if I had a team, which is probably never going to happen because, listen, it is what it is. And I don't want a team. I kind of enjoy doing things on my own, to be honest. And someone did something like that, I would immediately issue an apology and fire that person. That person would no longer work for me.
Oh, I would too, for sure.
Because my name is on the head of that Twitter account, not their name. So when you do something for someone, you have to make sure that what you're doing is proper. And again, everyone's going to have a different opinion, but let's move on to a more fun topic.
Wait, can I jump on that really quick before we move
sure,
on?
absolutely. Come on in.
Yeah, I think sort of what see what the chat's saying, but I think the fact that he represents the video game awards is a topic in itself. I think he's held to a little bit of a different standard than most people, especially, Sony is constantly paying him to promote their stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think with that and the fact that he sort of has a history of doing this stuff is why I'm also not willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And especially, you have to have, even if he said something afterwards, like, oh, this was a mistake, then cool, right? But he's sort of done this stuff before.
Yes.
And which is why I'm not willing to be like, oh yeah, that's a mistake. It seems like he's very balanced towards Sony, as most of the industry seems to be, especially with that whole, situation with the cross generations, right? But I really think that, I don't know. I think Geoff Kieghley, he just has a history of this stuff. So that's all I'll say about that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. I didn't even consider that because when you go to his page, his Twitter page, it definitely talks about the video game award. So he is representing that brand, whether it's his own account or not. But again, it apples and oranges at this point. I just think it was unprofessional. When he does things like this, as someone that looks, and I don't look up to him. I don't really look up to anybody but my dad. All right, I respect him for sure. But looking up to would be too much of putting someone up on a pedestal. The only one that's on a pedestal is my pop. That's about it. But you look to these industry leaders to act better than everyone because of what the position they hold. And when things like this happen, it disappoints me. And I'm once again disappointed with Geoff because I believe that he is well above this. And I just don't think it's an accident considering his history. And I'll leave it at that. But what I want to do is I want to move on to a little bit of a fun topic. Now, again, this is another one that's subjective, but it's more of hashtag fun. And I kind of want to involve the chat in this. But before I do, let me catch up on some of these unbelievable super chats. So first of all, the first one of the day comes in by Mr. Tushy, drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, Sam Fox says, big hello to VJ and panel. Well, hello, whoever Sam Fox is. Which and I saw that you were laughing, VJ.
Yeah.
We also have Joe Bailey. Wow, Joe, thank you so much for your generosity. He drops an outstanding $20 super chat and says, I just pre-ordered my SSD memory card. So hyped for the next gen. Have a great show. Yes, dude, I have 2 of them on pre-order. One, I'm gonna put on my PayPal account, so I'm gonna actually spend the cash up front. And the other one I'm ordering from Amazon. Yes, I'm getting 2 because I want one for each console, especially the Series S, which will be in the bedroom. We also have Goose 8402 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, hell of a good 2 weeks for Xbox. Can't wait for launch. Glad to make the live show today. Always one of my top podcasts. Keep up the great work, Boom. Well, thank you, dude. That is awesome of you to say. It is truly appreciated. We have I always laugh when he said when his name pops up, J-Dub is a shill, drops an outstanding $2 super chat, and he says He is the CNN of gaming. We also have Reggie Mobile 9, a very generous friend of the show, drops outstanding a $10 super chat. Says, great show, Boom and Squad. Didn't Cyberpunk win best PlayStation game for one of his programs recently? Continued success, Boom. Yes, it actually did. And again, it was one of those. Okay, I mean, what am I going to say? Yeah, it was the won awards for being the best PlayStation game, even though it's marketing by Microsoft and it's going to play better on, of course, the Series X. But again, that's here nor there. This particular topic is one that I don't think a lot of people have been talking about. Zemi and I have been talking about this, but I figured, part of the bits and bytes section of the show that we would, of course, talk about this. And the question that I have for the chat, but more specifically the panel, because I gotta have a conversation if this show is going to continue, is what new game or what will be the first game you put onto your Xbox Series X or S? And the second part of the question is, what backwards compatible game will you test out on your new hardware? Let me go to Zemi first on it. Zemi, I think it's easy to suggest that it's going to be Cyberpunk, but I don't want to take words out of your mouth. What game will you be playing first on your Series X?
So here's the problem with Cyberpunk, right? Cyberpunk doesn't come out until like 8 or 7 or 9 days after the console releases, right?
That is correct. Yes.
So that makes it almost impossible for it to be Cyberpunk for me, because there's no way I'm going to go stand in line at GameStop and get that console and bring it home and then be like, okay, now let me just wait 8 days so I can play Cyberpunk being the first game. Like, that's not going to happen, right? So for me, it's either going to be Assassin's Creed Valhalla or 12 minutes. And I'm leaning towards 12 minutes if it releases on the 10th, because that's going to be a lot quicker to download, and I'll be playing that as Valhalla installs and downloads and all that. And then the game that I'm going to be playing backwards compatible, I'm going to be honest with you. It might be Mafia. I think it's going to be Mafia, the definitive edition that we were talking about yesterday. I think that's going to be the first game I play backwards compatible. Yeah.
And those are strong picks. Strong picks. I see a lot of people in here. Hyper Bear puts Gears Tactics that he wants to play first.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's an excellent one. Good friend of the show, Cyber Gunter 81 says Bright Memory. That's a strong one. That looks great. We have CJ Gomez. He says DOA 6, Destiny 2, Halo Master Chief. I guess he's talking about for the backwards compatibility. And yeah, it is. And it's Cyberpunk for him that he wants to play first. So let's go to our guest. 3-Bit. What do you intend to play first on your Series X or S? And more importantly, what do you want to see what this system can do when we're talking about backwards compatibility?
Yeah, I was going to also say Cyberpunk, but then I had no idea.
That was 9 days later.
Yeah, 9 days later. So I cannot wait that long. So if is the Medium at least coming out?
Yes, it is. Okay, yeah, I believe it's there at launch.
Yeah, so I'll be playing the Medium. I love horror games. Gears Tactics seems like it's going to be pretty awesome. I tried not to look at anything from it.
Me too. Yep.
It's going to be brand new for me. And in terms of backwards compatibility, this one's going to be kind of interesting because I wanted to play Control, right? I stopped playing Control and I was like, you know what? I'm going to experience this next gen. I'll wait. I have the Xbox One S because I've been holding out, right? I had so many opportunities to get the Xbox One X because of the fact I knew the new consoles were coming out. And then that whole controversy happened with Control. And then I'm like, so I think I might be playing Doom Eternal for sure. Backwards compatible. I think that's going to be amazing. Yeah, and Gears 5. So a lot.
And again, really, really strong picks for you, VJ. Obviously, you're in the market for a new console, like pretty much everybody here. And by the way, we've already crossed 830 people here. My God, I cannot thank you enough for supporting this channel. The last couple of weeks has been amazing. What a ride that I hope never ends. This is the dream come true for the old man in the room. I obviously retired from my original career, which I loved. Being a member of the community that I grew up with, to police it all those for 21 years was a blessing. It was an opportunity that you don't hear many people are given. So I obviously took it and ran with it and gave back to the community that I grew up in, which is super important for me. But now, having almost like a second career with gaming and being able to write these shows and produce this content on a weekly basis has been, wow, my God, a dream come true. So thank you for supporting that. But VJ, for you, what do you intend to play first on your Series X or S? And more importantly, what game has piqued your interest to see the power of what backwards compatibility is going to look like on these new consoles?
Oof. I know that this upcoming generation, Boom, X marks the spot. However, I was unable to acquire the target.
Oh boy! So listen, they say they're going to have them at launch, so you might just be able to walk into a store and get one.
So it's a good point, Boom. It was, to be quite frank with you, Boom, it was easier finding paper towels and toilet paper during the madness of the pandemic than it's been trying to do the Xbox X's. And I'm going to be patient and wait till I can pick up a Series X in a orderly and leisurely fashion. I just can't subscribe to this madness. I'm too old. What I'm hoping for, and this is for everybody that missed out, I'm hoping that the situation remedies itself and all gamers can pick up the system and the games they want to enjoy with their friends and family, and especially over the holidays. But unfortunately, it seems like the demand for the Series S and X is undoubtedly right there. So it could be as far away as Easter. I hope not. But what I will be looking forward to is obviously the breakdowns and analysis of all the upcoming hardware and software, especially by NX Gamer and Digital Foundry, my go-to channels. And if and when I'm able to purchase a Series X, I would very much like to enjoy Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is no secret to you, Boom. I always mention that game. And obviously Dragon Quest XI-S, the definitive edition.
Those are really good ones, dude. Those weren't even on my radar, bro. Those are great picks.
They're AAA games, Boom, in my opinion. So yeah, and then they're launch titles, right? And they're exclusive. So people saying Series X has no exclusives, doesn't have that. They're just not looking deep enough into the selection, and I don't blame them because there's just so much on offer. People, you can often get lost, right? It's like a maze right now. But I do hope that one thing, because I'm not that familiar, and maybe you can advise, I just hope that by the time I get one, that they're not rotated out. By the time I get my hands on a Series X, I, for one, will be very disappointed, and because they are great games, Boom, regardless of what anyone's saying. And in fact, were to happen, I think me and alongside other gamers will be slightly upset. But to be honest with you, what I do have in the meantime is my trusted sort of Nintendo Switch, which has never let me down, and it always brings me fun, joy, and engagement, all of the time, especially while I'm waiting for picking up one of these new machines.
Nice. Well, listen, obviously, it's all about playing games, regardless of where you play. Yeah. But that's really what it comes down to. Hey, look who has joined the fray!
Hello.
It is our very brother from another mother, Mr. Badbit. Welcome to the show, my friend.
What's up? Now, am I a pirate legend in Sea of Thieves? Absolutely.
I would say that you are, but here's the question. That's even more important than that. Have you crossed 2,000 followers on Twitter?
Not even close, but I will tell you this. I got the Ashen Lord pistol, and I'm pretty much like the best at Sea of Thieves. Some people would say I'm pretty much the best. I would tend to agree with those statements.
If who's listening probably, or he's probably teaching, maybe he'll listen on the back end, will agree with you because you guys fight more than cats and dogs. Yeah. But Joe, the question that you happened to just right in the nick of time get here for was, what do you intend to play first on your Xbox Series X/S, whichever one you're getting, and what backwards compatible game do you want to see looking and running better on these new consoles?
So first and foremost, I missed out last week on the Bethesda thing, right? The Bethesda happened. We got Bethesda, gang. It's happening, and I want to just say real fast on that. What a huge get! Like that opens the door for so many possibilities of like titles that didn't sell well, like Dishonored 2, to get sequels. So for me, or Prey. So for me, like, I really love Arcane, and they love to get weird, and I want to get weirder with Arcane, and I think Game Pass allows them to look past game sales, hopefully, enough so that they can make their weird physics-based games. So I think the first game that I would like to play on the backwards compatibility side is definitely Dishonored 2, which I did not get to finish, which is a fantastic game. Which I hope is one of those games that have the unlocked FPS, the frame rate, so that I can experience that in all the glory. But I really think that's the coolest thing about Game Pass or Microsoft's approach in this generation, is it's not really so much about, it is going to be, the focus for now is about Game Pass, but in the future it's Xbox Series X, but in the future it's going to be about what can Game Pass bring and what that influences developers of how they make their games. So for me, I want to see Arcane. I want to see them get weird. I want to play more Dishonored 2. The first game I'm going to play on my Series X, that's another really good question, because right now I don't have a pre-order still. Like, I have that Series S, from jolly old England, but hopefully I can get the something from the States, so I don't have to wait as long. There's, to no disrespect, there's nothing launch title wise that is going, oh my god, I need this, other than I think Gears Tactics. Gears Tactics is definitely a game I'm going to be playing day one, and my main squeeze right now, which is Sea of Thieves. I want,
bro.
Exactly,
unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's the thing that, like, for me, I've been saying for the longest time before the Bethesda deal that was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna wait until the Halo edition, and now I'm just like, you know what, I'll buy the Series S. And then when the Halo Edition console comes out, I'll nab that too. So for me, I like, Sea of Thieves is great, but the initial load times of getting into that game, or even when you die, there's even like little problems where it'll black screen you randomly. Like, if you hit a rock in a certain way, it'll just black screen you back onto the boat. I don't know if that's like server based or like RAM based, but having that hopefully just virtually non-existent or cut in half significantly, that's the thing that's really hooking me to the Xbox Series S. Isn't so much the games, but how fast I can get to the games.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's actually a great point. We're actually going to get into that, because that was something that we had happen on Monday, where they showed some backwards compatibility work. They haven't shown anything for the new games yet, but they did show some backwards compatibility stuff, which we'll see if we can touch on. But my couple of games that I definitely want to play first on my Series X is going to be the Medium. Of course, like 3-bit, I am a diehard horror fan. That game looks bananas. And it's next gen only, which means that all of the muscle of the console should make this game look like a beast. For backwards compatibility, the first game I wanted originally to try was going to be Red Dead Redemption 2 for a couple of reasons. One, for the loading. I wanted to see how the loading was going to be removed, or at least significantly lessened. But that game was gorgeous on the series, on the Xbox One X. I could only imagine what it looks like running on the Xbox Series X.
That's a good call.
And the second one that I'm probably going to jump back into, because I've never experienced it at this FPS, is Destiny 2. It happens to be launched.
That is a good one.
That day with the new expansion, and I don't have a PC, so I've never experienced what Destiny at 60 FPS means.
Real talk, once you do, you'll never go back.
Yes. Well, another great game that I've noticed a ton of people in chat have been talking about, like multiple people, and none of us have actually brought it up, is Gears of War 5. Yes. And I think that's going to be a lot of people's go-to.
Well, it's going to be running at 120 frames per second. So That's pretty ridiculous. But yeah, again, folks, this was a fun one. I'm glad that we have the interaction from the community. Thank you guys and gals for giving us your picks, and a lot of them are in there. I've seen the Ascent in there. I've seen Dirt 5 in there. I've seen Forza Motorsport 7, which is going into Game Pass. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to get excited about. And again, one of the things that we love about Xbox is, your games come with you. And it's going to be fun to see older games run better. How much better, we don't know, but I'm sure that, the guys and gals at Digital Foundry will definitely be telling us. But I want to move on to the next topic. It's one I think Zemi's going to want to talk about, potentially even, of course, Mr. Badbit. But let me just catch up on some of these outstanding super chats. We have Dan the Man Cunningham, who drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Thank you for being here, Dan, and thank you for the generosity. He says, hope all is good, Boom and crew. Geoff Kieghley can eat a bag of D's. I'm not going to pronounce that live on the air. And yes, I understand your opinion, brother. We have Sicaro King Cypher. Wow, dude. He drops an outstanding and very generous $25 super chat and says, for the many Japanese games you helped me get back into that's a very good friend of mine. We grew up together. That is, we actually know each other in real life. Sicaro King Cypher. And yes, we used to hang out at the import shops way back in the days to get our games as they were literally being taken off the dock. It was pretty fun. Robert Jones drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, play first Mass Effect Trilogy, I hope. Oh man, if that comes out, that would be if that release, I don't understand how EA is not talking about it. If that's coming, my God,
hopefully by March.
I'm gonna cry just like the way I cried whenever Elder Scrolls Skyrim was announced and Hogwarts Legacy was announced. I'm going to cry.
I love it.
Tears.
I love it. Tears are coming down his eyes because he loves Mass Effect. And nothing wrong with that, dude. Another generous friend of the show, Nightwolf3186, drops another $5 super chat and says, did you have to ask, Boom? Cyberpunk 2077, and followed by AC Valhalla. Back Compat is my Mass Effect trilogy that I know is coming. See, everyone is hyped for this. It is money left on the table by EA. Shame on you that you haven't given us or spilled the tea, so to speak, like the young kids are saying, regarding whether or not this game is existing or not. Hopefully it does. We also have Hot Grizz 910 drops a very generous $5 super chat. Says, Boom is always so gracious, world class. Oh, dude, that's very kind of you to say. I enjoy being the bigger man every time. Plus, being a good guy is what I live for. Thank you. Thank you for that. Eagles fan 76, another generous friend of the show, drops a $2 super chat and says, looks like Apple and Microsoft are working it out. Yes, I believe that was going to be something that they would work out. You know why? Because money. Money at the end of the day speaks volume, and I believe that it's only a matter of time before the issues that Apple had with trying to get them to put every game on there, they're going to figure it out because they're both going to get money. And who doesn't love money? I mean, Microsoft loves money. Apple loves money. I love money. I just don't have as much money as they do, but maybe one day. But let's go into a topic that is going to be fun to talk about. Xbox boss Phil Spencer teases future Bethesda games, and that he is willing to spill some of the tea on what he has seen. Well, that's a good question that we're going to get into. While guesting on the Major Nelson podcast, here is what Phil Spencer had to say. He says, I have the benefit of knowing the future roadmap and having some insight to the things that have been both announced and unannounced and what the teams are working on. It is an incredibly exciting time for the work that Bethesda Studios are doing as they continue to craft creating games, and also thinking about how our meaning of gaming continues to evolve and their role in that. Obviously, this is we're going to get into it. But Zemi, what are your thoughts? Are you jealous that Phil Spencer knows things and you don't?
How dare Phil Spencer do that interview and specifically say that he knows things that we don't about Bethesda, just rubbing it in our face. I don't like that. That's mean. But no, I would be lying if I said I wasn't extremely jealous that Phil knows the going-ons and the different projects at Bethesda. But at the end of the day,
could he have already played a working part of the next Skyrim?
See, I mean, I hope not. I hope not because I actually I kind of hope so because that means I get to play sooner. But then I kind of hope not because I'm very jealous of him already. But once again, our savior Todd Howard has deemed our eyes unworthy to view Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield, and I mean, who are we to argue with the savior that is Todd Howard?
I love Todd Howard. I really do. I dig that dude.
I love Todd Howard so much. And whenever he walks out on the stage, I believe I've said this on a podcast before, but like E3 2018, whenever he walked out on the stage, like you saw all of these other executive producers and lead developers and all this stuff walk out on the stage, and a lot of them were kind of timid and nervous and stuff. Todd Howard just walked out on that stage and he worked that stage.
He's like a boss. That guy's legit.
He came out. Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love him. So yes, I am beyond words jealous that Phil Spencer knows what's going on over at Bethesda. I wish I did. And then was there a second part to this question?
You know what? Is there a second part to the question? I mean, look, I'll ask you this. With Elder Scrolls, Skyrim being that was released, I don't think people actually equate this 9 years ago.
11/11/11.
Yes, that is correct. 11/11/11, and of course, Fallout 4, November 10th, 2015. These games seem to have, at least for Skyrim or for Elder Scrolls, because it's not going to be Skyrim 2 or anything. You have a name for it. It's called, I believe you said it was Hammerfell.
I truly believe, like, whenever we saw that teaser, the landscape looked tremendously like Hammerfell. And I mean, it could also kind of resemble Elsewhere as well, the province where the Khajiit live in the Elder Scrolls universe. But because of all of the conversations that were happening in Skyrim, of the going-ons in Hammerfell and all that, I really believe it's going to be Elder Scrolls 6 Hammerfell. That is my firm belief and my theory.
Do you think that they need to have it like an earthen kingdom? Do you not think because I would like to see Elsewhere. I think Elsewhere. Sure. I think is their architecture based off not so much Egyptian but possibly Middle Eastern, right? They're
it is.
Yeah, so I think seeing what we saw, I would like it to be Elsewhere, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Hammerfell. I don't know, because I do like the idea of going to the Khajiit towns, but I don't know, as the marketing person in the room, of how do you market cat people on a cover of your game,
I don't think there's anything wrong with the cat person.
No, I mean, I don't think that is really that big of an issue, and it's not like they're going to have a big furry hairballing coughing nasty. I don't like the Khajiits in the game.
Listen, I'm just thinking of cats. I'm just thinking of cats. The movie.
It's not like they're going to have that probably on the front cover. They're probably going to have some landscape or I don't know. They may have a Khajiit on the front cover. I don't know. But I truly believe it is going to be Hammerfell. And we already know that Starfield is coming out in 2021.
Yes.
And we know from our savior, Todd Howard talking during the E3 2018 Bethesda presentation that Starfield is going to be their next game, then Elder Scrolls, and then he actually never mentioned what game was going to follow that. But I think it's kind of somewhat safe to say that it might be Fallout. But with Starfield coming out in 2021 now, I think it's very, very possible to see Elder Scrolls 6 coming out in 2022 or 2023. I would probably put more money on 2023. And then Fallout, I would say, is probably going to come out 2 or 3 years after Elder Scrolls, unless Bethesda and Obsidian kind of maybe work together, or possibly Obsidian, after they come out with Avowed, might jump onto Fallout, and then in that way we could possibly see a Fallout a little bit sooner.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, both when you look at the teams inside of what Bethesda Game Studios and Obsidian have, they have quite a bit of not only talent but teams.
Let me actually talking about that. So during Skyrim's development, whenever it first released in 11/11/11, there were 100 people that worked on that game. Bethesda now, actually before getting acquired by Microsoft, had 400 people. Wow. So they have a lot bigger of they have a lot more, I guess, men on deck, if that makes any sense, to make these games. And of course, like, these games are more detailed and bigger and stuff like that, and that obviously requires more production and more people working on it. But I mean, they definitely could. I definitely think that they could release the Elder Scrolls 2 years after Starfield.
Well, I mean, Starfield's going to be big. It's a new IP for both Bethesda, and of course, it's going to be a new IP because Microsoft owns Bethesda. And if that does come out next year, that is pretty big when you consider what they have on deck for next year as a whole. I mean, we don't know if Hellblade's going to be there. We have no idea if Halo Infinite is going to launch on the 20th anniversary. There is, I'll put it this way. There's a lot to get excited about if you're an Xbox fan for the future.
I don't remember who specifically said it, but it might have been Archimedes, might have been VJ, it might have been somebody else. But they actually came up with a very, very interesting theory, I think the last podcast that we were on before the debate. And that is that Xbox might actually have to eventually stagger a lot of these games being released, just because they have so many of them.
That's true. I mean,
one of the caveats of, like, the reason why the Bethesda deal makes sense, from what I'm aware, is there's going to be a point where Game Pass becomes so popular or so large that AAA developers are going to want even more money out of Microsoft to place their games on Game Pass. So this creates an opportunity for Microsoft to say, well, this is our emergency button. Whereas if and when that actually happens, we'll have enough content. It's kind of like the Netflix situation, right? Where you saw back when Netflix originally launched, you saw all these network TV shows land on Netflix. Now we've gotten to the point where we're seeing, like, Parks and Rec leave, The Office leave. You're seeing all the, like, Friends gone. But that is being replaced.
Everybody Loves Raymond.
Everybody loved Raymond gone.
It killed me.
But we're not caring about that as much because Netflix has, things like Stranger Things and Enola Holmes, and it seems like every other month they have something to really look forward to. So, like, they have their own studios, and that's what I think Microsoft kind of sees as well.
I absolutely agree with that. Let me bring in 3-Bit on this. 3-Bit, listen, Phil Spencer, when he does these interviews, he always has this smirk that obviously is the head of Xbox, so he knows things that no one else knows. But when specifically talking about Bethesda, this deal didn't just happen on Monday. This has been in the works for quite some time. The paperwork has been signed for quite some time. They knew what they were buying. They understand what Bethesda brings to Microsoft first party. I think we can all equate that very easily. But when you hear that he has seen Starfield, he has possibly seen the next Elder Scrolls, or even the next Fallout. I mean, do you feel a little jelly?
Yeah, man. Xbox has been making me jelly recently. Like, I'm sure some of you guys seen the initiative posts of the little girl playing.
That was his daughter. I
was so jealous of that little girl. I don't think I've been more jealous of a little 7-year-old girl as much as I was in that moment in my entire life.
And I was, like, looking at the reflection of her eyes to see if I could see something.
I was about to tweet out, like, if any time someone should have been wearing sunglasses, it's this moment right here.
Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, Drew Murray, who obviously is the head of the initiative, put out a pretty awesome tweet where it was his daughter was having some trouble sleeping, so he carried her up and he let her play one of the finished parts of the game that they're working on, and he took a picture of her expression. And I actually wrote to Drew. I don't know if he favored it, and I got a lot of likes and favorites and retweets on it. But I, of course, thanked him for sharing such a a precious moment with with the community, because that's obviously his family, right? So, and that's pretty awesome. I mean, when you got to represent when people do stuff like that, because they're letting you into their lives. So, of course, that was pretty awesome. But her expression was freaking priceless. Like and it's funny because he says in the tweet that she told him, yeah, it's playing better now than when she originally played it. That's hilarious.
I love that. That's awesome.
So continue, 3-bit.
Yeah. I'm just excited for whatever the initiative has going on. But in terms to bring it back to Bethesda and what you're saying about Game Pass, I think Game Pass is growing, right? They jumped to 15 million users and growing, and it's which is more than PlayStation Now's subscribers, right? Which is
they're still sitting under 3 million from the last time I checked. I think at the last time, Joe, can you correct me on this? Was it 2.8?
Yeah, I think it's like around there. They haven't.
Just for shits and giggles, let's just give them the nudge. They're at 3 million. Yeah, they're at 3 million, and that's nothing to sneeze at. But when you compare apples to oranges, which is something we do on these shows, 3 million as opposed to and they have 112 million console owners. That's a very, very minute, less than 1% number. And then you look at Microsoft, and again, inside baseball, folks, I don't have massive connections, but I do have a few, and I can assure you that they are well above 15. They just have only announced 15. Just like when they announced 10, they were closer to 15. So imagine that they're saving we're at 20 million subscribers, probably closer to launch. And I think that based on the Bethesda deal alone, they're going to get there easily. Game Pass, big part of Microsoft there, 3-bit.
Yeah, so they passed PlayStation already. And it's weird because, PlayStation has the bigger market. So I think Game Pass is on it's going to be very successful. Especially day and date, right? So I think Bethesda is going to have some different tactics with when they release their games, or how they release the games on Game Pass in the future. But I think for now, it's just going to be day and date, and I'm really looking forward to whatever they've been seeing behind the scenes, because I know there's games we haven't seen, right? There are games that we have seen, of course, like Starfield and the Deathloop stuff, but I know there's definitely some games we haven't seen, so I really jealous of Phil right now, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. VJ, why don't you come in on the conversation? Obviously, Phil Spencer is privy to a lot of information, and we love that about him. He doesn't share as much. He's cryptic. He's very cryptic, and it's that coy smile of his, that smirk that he has, that that he's enjoying what he's seeing, and the fact that he has, if you harken back to the interview with him, Pete Hines, and of course our savior, or at least Zemi's savior, Todd Howard. Todd actually said that they are actually closer to showing Starfield than they were before the conversation, which is pretty interesting the way he phrased it. But when you hear Phil Spencer, he knows the path. He knows the trajectory of what they're going to do with these newly acquired studios and these IPs. Do you feel a little like you kind of wish you were like that fly on the wall when he's looking at these games?
I've listened to everyone's comments, Boom, and you know me that I come from I always go things on a slight tangent, but I always try to look at it from a macro point of view of where Microsoft can improve and how they can get better. So I always keep it real. So from my perspective, in recent times, I'm struggling to recall the last 5 to 10 million unit system seller or brand enhancer or subscription multiplier Xbox has creatively incubated and shipped. Xbox hold the power narrative. We know that. They also hold the price narrative in terms of more bang for your buck versus the closest competitor. And now they hold the studio count narrative. What Phil now has in his hands is Fallout and Skyrim, and I think they've sold about 14 and 13 million respectively in their most recent incarnations. Some of the IPs acquired are indeed iconic and part of pop culture today, if not part of the historic tapestry of gaming itself, right? I think we can all agree on that. And you know my opinion on Microsoft. Historically they've been extremely financially, marketing and production-led company, and creatively, in my opinion, it's historically fourth on their agenda. I want Phil to ensure he changes the creative philosophy at Xbox, separate from Microsoft. And in turn, that should harness the sale and success narrative as well, right? Because we've got the others, why not these two as well? But more so, elevate the perception of the brand in terms of the quality it produces. I think this is really important going forward. In spelling out those sales numbers, Boom, I guess it's Phil's call when strategically he feels fit to release these games and to obviously give rise to hardware sales, increase subscriptions and recouping the dev costs. Be fair to the dev teams as well. They all work hard and want to see the game do well, and bonuses are often tied to performance. I'm not jealous of Phil. I just want him to keep looking to improve every aspect of his division that he now governs, which currently consists, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not as my memory is not as sufficient as it was when I was younger, but he has 5,300 people now under his ward and watch. That's 2,400 people more than Sony PlayStation division, but still not quite there where Nintendo is at 6,000. So yeah, he definitely needs to get his checkbook out again. If Phil is ruthlessly creative, as he's shown by delaying Halo, then we can all sleep well at night, knowing games that will engage our imagination are well on their way and not too far from the distant future. I'm more than happy for Phil to showcase what he wants, when he wants, in his own relaxed time frame.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that listen. The one thing about Phil is he has a plan, and maybe it's a plan that we don't necessarily see initially, but I think that he does have a plan, and I think that he knows exactly when. Like Joe was saying, that Game Pass actually is going to come to a point where there's literally going to be so many games. Yeah. That they're going to have to strategically put them out, because you can't stack them on there like they're, like cartons. You know what I'm saying? You got to put them out so people can enjoy them. Joe, before we move on to the next topic, let me get your opinion on this. And I'm going to come at this from a different angle. Like I want to touch on what you said. Obviously with the addition of the 8 studios that they just got, they have a total of 23 studios, which equates to about 35 teams. Yep. Working on games, and Bethesda is going to play a big role. There's no doubt about it. They are not only massive in size, but they bring with them in tow tremendous, unbelievably well beloved series. Do you envy Phil in any way that he now has to figure out how to get these games out and then get them out in a way where people can enjoy them, where they're not stumbling over each other?
I don't envy Phil at all, other than his bank account. For me, I think the goal for Xbox or the division is Game Pass, and so how do we put out these games on a yearly regular basis? And I was on Seasoned Gaming this weekend. We were talking about,
which, by the way, was a fantastic episode, and you held yourself like a champ.
I mean, one donut, so like, to me, it's not like strategically placing them. When the game's done, it's done. They got to get that game out there. But what do the timetables look like, for Xbox? What is their goal every year for the next 5 years of are we having 2 or 3 bangers? Are we having, a game a quarter? Are we having a game a month? How do you keep that momentum? And also, how do you keep those games alive while at the same exact time, how do you barter with third parties to get their games on your platform? These are all really, really huge undertakings, just to name one of those things. So I don't envy Phil in that position whatsoever. I think the Xbox brand is in the best position it's ever been, period, exclamation point, whatever you want to put at the end of that. Now they just have to figure out, which no doubt they've already figured out, where to align the pieces to make sure that they're having annual releases. And what VJ says, and how do we make those annual releases something that people actually stop and go, whoa, what is this? I need this. You know, so for me, that's where I'm at. It's not like how do we turn the faucet on? It's really how do we learn how to turn the faucet off when we need to.
That's a great point, and you know something. I'm sure that is a problem that everyone wishes that they had. Studio heads wish they had for sure. My God, we have we have too many games. What the H do we do? Where do we go now? You know what I'm saying? How do we turn off this faucet because it's damn's about to break? I'll put it to this way: it is a position that Microsoft has not seen themselves in quite a bit of time. Yeah. And to see them in that position now is exciting. It makes you very happy to support the brand. But if you are new coming into the brand, it gives you confidence that your money will not be misspent, especially when you talk about value proposition versus what you're spending. You buy a $300 console and in the Series S because you don't want the big one. You maybe don't want it. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe you have a PC, or maybe you just want to have a second console in your home. They've given you an opportunity that if you spend the $300, you're going to get your money's worth. And we're going to segue right into the next topic. As a matter of fact, thanks to our very good friend Matt Piscatella of the MPD Group. He had some interesting things to say, and this is something I've been talking about for a while, but let me just catch up on a few of the super chats before they go away. Thank you, Zemi, for, of course, putting them in there. Mr. Tushy drops a $2 super chat, says, did I just hear a fire engine? Yes, you did. This is an apartment that I'm podcasting from, and it just seems as if the fire whackers always wait until I'm doing a show, because when I'm playing on the TV or I'm watching with a movie with Mrs. Boom, never hear them. They're never around. But whenever I go live, I think they're waiting outside the window and say, yep, he's live, let's get him. That's my conspiracy theory of the day. We also have Michael Miner, a good friend of the show. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, do you think they'll show Starfield when they debut gameplay for the Series X? My God, that would be something else, because Todd Howard, our Lord and Savior, according to Zemi, did say that they're closer to showing it than ever before. So who knows? Eagles fan 76 drops another $2 super chat and says, can we have too many fantasy games coming out, guys? I say no. The more, the merrier, in my opinion. But, with the Unreal announcement of the ZeniMax Bethesda deal last Monday, coupled with, of course, the $299 Xbox Series X, the likelihood of a multi-console home will be the big story for next generation, at least in my opinion. And if you're new to the channel, of course, we say welcome. Hopefully that you stick around. You can enjoy the show enough to subscribe and hit the like button. But I've been banging this drum for quite a while. For me, and again, I've been gaming for a very, very long time, I have always supported multiple consoles. As a matter of fact, since 1978, I have not ever missed a console launch in this country, ever, in the history of gaming. I have owned everything. Even when 3DO was $700, I figured out a way to get it. I've owned everything because I love gaming, so I support everything. That's why this house is a multi-console house. But Matt Piscatella actually tweeted something out yesterday that was not only interesting and lines up with my personal theory that I've been talking about for months, but it is definitely thought perplexing. He says this in his tweet: this gen, 1 in 3 U.S. owners of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One ended up owning both. That's a pretty high percentage. This percentage should be higher, as the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X will be even more differentiated in offerings. And then he finishes it off with, the idea of a console war is way past its expiration date, more a question of which will be purchased first. And of course, that's coming directly from Matt Piscatella, who represents the NPD group. I want to go to 3-bit first on this. Obviously, Matt knows. I mean, he holds a very prominent position in the NPD group, so he knows what he's talking about. I have, again, you're new to this show, but I don't know if you've ever heard me say it. I think that this generation is going to be a generation where the lines are going to be a little bit blurred in regards to I support this one more than the other. Sure, you might buy more PlayStation games than you do Xbox games, but I believe that people are going to own both because of the amount of games that are going to be available, and different games for that matter. But more specifically, it's hard to overlook 3-bit what Microsoft has done to this industry, and it hasn't even technically started yet. By offering a $300 entry next-gen console, that's only difference from the big $500 brother is its SSD size, and the GPU is going to be obviously scaled back a bit. That is pretty impressive that you're going to be able to potentially get ray tracing and HDR and VRS, as well, of course, as 1440p and upwards of 120 frames per second. And of course, when you factor in Game Pass, the value proposition goes through the roof. What are your thoughts on Matt's opinion? More so my opinion as well. Do you think that this is going to be an era where more gamers are going to support multiple brands?
Yeah, because sort of what King says, right? Where do they see a $300 console? Yeah, I'm gonna buy that, right? So I do think the casual market is bigger than the hardcore market, where
sure,
I'm only going to buy the PlayStation because I'm a PlayStation guy, right? I think it's as much as we like to sort of divide it in this console war. I do think the casual people will be like, what's the price? I'm going to buy that, And I also can just contribute that to Phil's leadership as well. Before Phil Spencer joined, Halo, Gears, all those games, they're kind of on PC, but they weren't really. And his leadership made it so their games going forward expanded into the PC space, which opened up their overall customers. So by taking those that at its state, Xbox games aren't really exclusive anymore, right? Microsoft has opened up their customer base to PC players and now even mobile. And so their overall philosophy of supporting other platforms works within their own ecosystem. So I think that works to their benefit. And we're already seeing evidence of this going forward. But you know what? I do think they were really smart by doing $300 console. It has the benefits of next gen with the ray tracing and the frame rate, just not the resolution, right? I think that was a very smart move on their so yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that they knew what they were doing. I mean, even before we knew what the Series S was, I called it Microsoft's Trojan horse. And people laughed. People like, talking about Trojan horse. Yeah, it is. It's the Trojan horse that into gaming that necessarily, again, when you say 300, it doesn't ring as well as 299. The Xbox Series X starting at $299. If you are that's in the realm of being considered to want to be those aggressive buys. You didn't go to the store to buy one, but man, $300 for this, I can't pass it up. Joe, our resident marketing manager of the group, who has what are your thoughts on Matt's opinion on this? Do you agree with him and myself that because of the position that Microsoft has basically put themselves in, and again, they don't necessarily want to sell more consoles than I mean, like they don't want to. Their goal is not to beat Sony in selling consoles.
Right.
Their overall goal is
maximize
to get people
them profits.
And get people into the service. Now, a $300 console allows for that, especially when value proposition comes into play with Xbox Game Pass. Do you think that this generation will see more two-tier console homes than ever before?
Oh yeah. No question. First, Matt's the guy with the numbers, right? So like 1 in 3, that's a huge net. That's 30%.
That's 33% of the market, dude.
Yeah.
That's big. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot.
It's a huge number. So just to see that number there, and then also seeing him say something to the effect of like both of these consoles, there is a strong both PlayStation and Xbox, there is a strong attraction to these boxes right now that he's seen traffic wise. So yeah, like to me, it also kind of lends the light of like how silly console war stuff really is, because at the end of the day, both these things are selling really well, and we can appreciate what both parties are doing. And so, you know, I think what you said before, it rings true here, is that, you know, that's power really does not matter. Like at the end of the day, consumers don't care. It's about value. And I think that's what Microsoft's positioned themselves the best in, is they're the value proposition. They are the company of just like, hey, listen, cool, we're not your first choice, whatever. Here's a $200, $299 box. Here's Game Pass. Even if it's your Game Pass machine, they love it because they're making money on you every single month. So they don't care if they're your first or second, as long as you're subscribed with Game Pass. And so Series S is that attractive model of just like, yeah, it'll up-res some games to 4K. It's not true, but it gets the job done. It's going to still play your games really smooth. It's going to still, you know, support those next gen games. So for what Microsoft has really done is they've offered you choice, and they've offered you more than that value for getting into this ecosystem. And that's what I appreciate more, because I know we're going to talk about backwards compatibility soon, right?
Yeah, we're going to roll right into that after this.
I'll save my next thoughts for that. So to me, yeah, this is absolutely, it's going to be a way bigger number this gen.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. VJ, let's bring you into the conversation, because again, you bring in tow some tremendous amount of experience. And one of the things that Microsoft has done is, you know, they have the power narrative, but I can guarantee you that is not the crux of the conversation when you talk about next gen with them, because they understand that a usually 85% of the market, at least 85% of the market, are the casual folks that buy 2 and 3 games per year. And the Series S is going to warrant an opportunity for many gamers who might have skipped last generation, haven't bought a console in a while. They're going to hear about Xbox Game Pass. They're going to see someone in their office playing xCloud. They're going to hear that $15 a month gets you all of these services. Do you think that Matt Piscatella is onto something where even if you are a diehard PlayStation fan, let's say, for instance, that is your bag. You love PlayStation. You got the lights hanging in your room. You got the tattoo on your right arm. But at some point, you're going to look over to Xbox and say, $300, $15 a month. Look at all those games. Man, I can't pass it up. Do you think there's going to be more consoles in homes this generation?
Definitely more Xbox consoles, I think. But that's just off the top of my head. But let me give you a bit of thought behind that, right? So 3 months ago, Boom, when you were kind enough to let me appear on your show, I said that both Xbox and PlayStation, in terms of both machines, even Nintendo really, all offer a fantastic value proposition. And I said dual console ownership will likely be the norm going forward. Not in terms of the price point, because we didn't know the price points back then, but you could already see, right, the games, right, that were kind of becoming almost prevalent, right, in terms of becoming imaginatively sort of engaging us, right, or our friends and our family, right. And Phil said something, I don't remember when, it may have been around the time a little later, which struck a chord with me, and it stuck with me ever since. So I'm quoting him here for a second time on your show, so please bear with me. He said, I find it completely counter to what gaming is about to say that part of that is to lock people away from being able to experience those games, or to force someone to buy my specific device on the day that I want them to go buy in order to partake in what gaming is about. Gaming is bigger than any one device. Now, maybe I'm a bit of a romantic, or maybe I'm completely out of touch, but to me, over the last 3 months looking at Sony and Nintendo, and they're great companies. I've got nothing against them. They've given me a considerable amount of joy over generations, Boom, and I think everyone will attest to that. But for me, Sony and Nintendo, and considerably much so, much less so in Xbox's case, I believe, those two are akin to a child, right, vying for domination and control over his or hers bat and ball, or a packet of Bertie all sorts, rather than learning to share with his or her brother or sister or a playground friend. And the stubbornness that I'm seeing, it's kind of just took me back to this, the simple allowing of crossplay, right, comes to mind, right? Like how long it took Sony to actually even get around to it, right? And I don't think much has changed in their thought process, which is quite concerning. But which to you seems a more progressive company, a breath of fresh air? Which actions build a better, a more respectful leader, right? Or lends to the growth of any community or a gaming utopia for the future? And I've talked about this on your show before. We all say that Microsoft has the money, right, and the power to gobble up Sony and Nintendo like Pac-Man. My point is, I hope Phil believes, and there is truth in the philosophy he's been preaching, right, over the last several months, that the industry needs changing and evolving, and that he's going to lead that charge, right, by leveraging and taking advantage of his position and power, right, and wield it to make the changes to the industry for the betterment of everyone's enjoyment, and bringing gaming communities together, all whilst hopefully putting an end to the idiocy of tech and exclusivity wars. Since for me personally, it's humanity that's important, not the technology.
And I would agree. I would agree. I think the one thing that leads the charge with Phil's ideology is being inclusive, having the community interact with one another. He's all about community. That's the one thing I love about the Xbox brand, that they put forth, not only in all of their tweets, but when you look at their ideology as a company, having people involved, regardless of what box you like to play on, is something that they want to push forward. They look to get away from the console war narrative that, sometimes we find ourselves, in talking about, or even being a part of. And I really love the direction of the company, for sure. Zemi Games, listen, when you see Matt Piscatella, who kind of knows a thing or two, and the guy is pretty witty. I've had the
he's
pleasure.
A smart dude.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of talking with him, so I can assure you that the guy knows his stuff.
Sure.
And obviously the facts and numbers, they're not opinions, they're facts, right? So one out of 3 console owners own both last generation, which is high. It's a high perspective. When you look at, Game Pass in the beginning of the generation wasn't a thing. Neither was the PSN PS Now. That wasn't a thing. And that you had multiple consoles per home. This particular generation, I believe that these services are going to play a much larger role, simply because the world has changed financially, and Game Pass obviously is a big factor. Do you feel that even if even though the market leader right now is currently Sony, with 112 plus million consoles sold, do you believe a lot of those Sony fans that were potentially at one point Xbox 360 fans that have moved over to the Sony brand, coming back to support Microsoft because of what they're offering?
Yeah, absolutely. And I say that because they did this generation, and there's also numbers to prove that I'll actually jump into. And I agree with you 100%. I believe multi-console ownership going into next generation will progress and it will increase. However, how much it increases, I'm not exactly sure. And I think that is a really interesting idea as well, because we're looking, at something a little bit different, this generation or next generation compared to this generation, right? Whenever we talk about multi-console ownership, we're talking about, someone owning both a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox, console, or a Nintendo Switch, right? But I think one really interesting thing that's going to happen next generation is that you don't have to own an Xbox console to actually be able to play Xbox games as you can play them on PC. You can play them on your mobile devices. There's other avenues. And, I'm under the firm belief eventually, I think Xbox, the xCloud app will come to Samsung televisions. And I think, Boom, you agree with me on that.
Yeah, that's been confirmed. As a matter of fact,
yes.
the TVs starting next year are all going to have the Xbox Game Pass and xCloud app built into the TV. That goes for the phones as well.
Absolutely. And so undoubtedly, that is going to decrease the amount of multi-console ownership, because that kind of means that PlayStation users don't actually have to have an Xbox console
Indeed.
to be able to play Xbox games. And so whenever I say how much of an increase we're talking about and how I'm saying I'm not sure, that's the really interesting part. But for sure, there is going to be a significant amount of multi-console ownership going into this new generation. And I do believe it's going to increase. But to clarify on this, I also want to say that I believe that a lot of the multi-console ownership is likely to happen a year after the initial release of both of these consoles, especially with how COVID is affecting the different economies in the world and just people's paychecks in general, right? So I don't think multi-console ownership is going to be a huge impact, within the first year of these new consoles coming out. But for sure, as the generation continues to follow after that first year, I think we're going to see a huge increase in multi-console ownership. I also want to add to the idea of multi-console console ownership, and in another market research survey that was also made by Matt Piscatella in the NPD marketing research group. And this one happened in January of this year. And it showed that 40% of Switch owners, Nintendo Switch owners in the United States, also own a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One console. So this isn't just affecting Xbox and PlayStation. It's pretty much affecting the entire console segment of the games industry, right? And right there is the proof in the pudding of that. Another survey that was conducted by Empira Analysis, which is another market research group, and this was reported on Games Ultra in June of this year, found that 47.5% of Xbox One households owned a PlayStation 4, and 32.2% of PlayStation 4 households owned an Xbox One. So, the data is 110% there. What we're talking about right now of multi-consoleship ownership going to be, increased going into next generation. This is not anything new for our current generation right now. And it's just as relevant for our generation that we're currently playing in right now as it will be in the next generation. And, of course, with market research, the methods that are used to acquire this data and how many and what specific respondents they use definitely matter. But, but I definitely believe that these surveys, especially with them coming from two different market research groups, really point into the direction that multi-console ownership is definitely extremely relevant right now, and will become even more so going into the next generation with Xbox providing the amount of value that they are.
Yeah, again, it's going to be very interesting, and to be fair, and again, I know people love to try to fan the flame with console wars. I think that this upcoming generation, the winner isn't going to be Microsoft. It's not going to be Sony. It's not going to be Nintendo. The winner is going to be us, the gamer. We're going to win because they're going to still need to rally for our dollar. And I think that Microsoft has put themselves in a much better position, specifically because, like, for instance, yesterday I went to finish paying off some PlayStation 5 stuff that I have pre-ordered. Now I'm getting discs on everything because, I'm an old man. I for some reason, I buy the disc games for Sony and Nintendo, obviously with the cards, and I buy everything digitally on the Xbox. That's just the way I roll. And, man, I got to be honest with you, man, that $70 price tag, it hurts, bro. It hurts. And I have just about every launch title for the PlayStation 5 pre-ordered, and I don't get any discounts, folks. Even being the old man don't get the discounts. So it is it hurts these $70 prices, and that's why I believe Microsoft.
There's definitely some shady stuff going on with those $70 prices. Godfall, that is being released as a PlayStation exclusive, and I think it's also going on PC as well. Godfall will cost you $70 on your PlayStation, but it will cost you $50 on the Epic Store.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, there's some shady.
I thought it's 60.
Maybe it is. I was just reading an article. I didn't actually double check. But
I will say this: it cost me $100 because I bought the Super Deluxe Edition that I'm assuming comes with the DLC, the future DLC, because obviously that company is known for it. It comes with a whole bunch of obviously digital stuff, digital DLC for the reserve. But I got the $100 edition because I like the maximum stuff. I mean, again, I'm not rich, not even remotely. I mean, I was a blue collar dude, so I got to count the pennies. But with that said, I've been saving for this for quite some time, so I'm going to splurge a little bit, and I'm going to enjoy both these launches. But like I was saying, Microsoft might be in a position where they might be the choice for a second console because of the value that comes behind Game Pass, and listen, this was a great conversation. What I want to do though is I want to move on to the next topic, but before I do, let me just catch up on a few of these unbelievable super chats that have come in. And of course, Emmy Games, thank you again for maintaining this because they do get out of control. Nightwolf 3186, another generous friend of the show, shows it again with another $5 super chat and says, do you guys think Starfield could be our, meaning the Xbox brand's, Star Citizen for the console? It won't be as big, obviously, but wow, would it be awesome? Yeah, I think Starfield is going to be pretty epic. We've seen some leaked screenshots. I don't know how legit they are, if they're doctored or not. I'm trying to get some more some info on it before I do a story. We've seen what the pictures look like. The game looks amazing. If those are real, we don't know if they're real or not. We have X Burke drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, if Xbox Game Pass sucks, as I've been reading by some Sony fans today, I'll enjoy games getting sucked all generation long. I mean, listen, I
saw one person, if I could just take that for a second. I saw one person say PS Now is better than Game Pass. Guys, I run a PlayStation channel. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. No.
Yeah, I mean,
Pass
listen,
is way better.
It's okay to be a fan of a brand, but yeah, speak your truths, right? Don't speak your narratives, because when you speak your narratives, you sometimes look like a boob, and nobody wants to look like a boob. So, I mean, listen, PlayStation Now, I will subscribe when it fits my narrative. When the games day and date are going in there, I will definitely subscribe to that. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. Jim Ryan says no, but I think they're eventually going to have to change their thoughts and ideologies over there at Sony. We have Bounty Boom drops another outstanding $5 super chat, and he obviously is a generous friend of the show. He says, wow, all of these beautiful people listening, hit that like button, folks. We are past 1,500 people. Oh my God, I cannot believe that. There are 1,500 people in the live chat. Folks, I'm giddy from the inside out because I never dreamed that I could that this could ever happen. I mean, again, who knows when you start a show whether you're going to get an audience or not? And the fact that you guys and gals are here in this abundance is so humbling, folks. I cannot thank you enough for supporting my dream, and this has been a dream for a long time. So thank you. If you are here, if you're new, consider subscribing. I think you're going to dig the show. We talk about everything. And also hit the like button. Like to get maybe 500 or 600 likes. I'd like 1,000 to be honest with you, but I don't want to be greedy. If you're enjoying the program, come on, man, hit that like button. Help a brother out, so to speak. But yeah, I want to move on to the next topic. And obviously this one is this one's going to be interesting because on Monday, the embargo lifted on what, because obviously many of the big gaming journalists, as well as their entities, got their hands on an Xbox Series X. Now, granted, they were not allowed to show footage and talk about any new games, but specifically, they were allowed to talk about backwards compatibility and what that means to the Xbox Series X. And quite frankly, some of the numbers were quite impressive. I want to go first to our guest, 3-Bit. You saw the likes of Jeff Grubb. You've seen Digital Foundry, who were tremendously and thoroughly impressed with what the Series X and brute force brought to the table. You saw IGN, GameSpot also did something. Engadget was tremendously impressed, and the running theme was that you don't want to go back to your Series X or PlayStation 4 Pro after playing this, because everything is faster, everything is bigger and better. What are your thoughts on this, dude?
It's such a stark contrast, man, to basically the whole generations thing. I think it's really amazing that you can play old games and sort of upgrade it without paying for it, right? And I know the whole argument from people is no one plays old games, right? But if you look at the top 10 games most played, all those are old games. All those are like GTA 5s. You go on Steam, people are like playing Counter-Strike and all this different stuff. And PC, for the most part, that market is them playing old games repeatedly. So I just think it's really amazing that you can play these games at a better frame rate, and not everybody had a chance to play those games, right? There's a lot of games I was either waiting for on the next generation of consoles, or I haven't played yet. So I welcome it. I think it's really amazing that they had some way, some magic in their box, and I really credit it to the team at Microsoft that they were able to boost the frame rates for these games via backwards compatibility, and that's without any developer work. They're just able to do that straight out the box. So I really want to contribute that to the hard work at Microsoft. I think it's amazing, and I can't wait to play a lot of these games that I wanted to try. I missed it, and now I'll be able to go back, check it out, 4K 60. So it's good for me. I'm sure it's good for everybody that's going to be getting the Series X as well, or Series S, right? They're better on that one too.
Yeah, and one of the advantages, and one of the things that you have to applaud Microsoft for doing, is telling its fan base that your money spent is important to us. Your support of the Xbox brand is important by allowing from the jump thousands of games. Now, is that 10,000 games? No. It's probably around 2,000 from what I am hearing and understanding. But just think about that for a second, folks. You're buying a new console. You're going to want to play new games. There's no doubt about it. And we're going to be playing plenty of them, plenty of new games at launch for not just the Xbox, but of course for PlayStation as well. But on the, obviously this is an Xbox show, so we will continue that conversation here. Joe, I want to go to you next, because one of the most impressive aspects, besides the power of the Series X, is the fact that, again, at launch, if you choose to, you have the ability to go back and play games that launched in 2000, in the year 2000. 2001, I should say, rather, or with the Xbox Series, the OG Xbox. Now, is anyone going to be racing to play, Fusion Frenzy? Probably not. But the fact that you can, in fact, do that is pretty impressive. And with the Auto HDR, the VRS, the SSD, all of the bells and whistles, for you, is that one of the most impressive aspects of the Series X and what they were talking about this Monday?
I think so. The backwards compatibility, I put this out in a tweet. Microsoft made Sony look lazy with their approach to backwards compatibility, which is like it isn't. That's the achievement here, is that usually it's just good enough for us to just simply go back and play Red Dead or God of War, whatever the case may be, right? But then to have those certain games, as my Puerto Rican mother is yelling in the background, my apologies, while we're able to play those games backwards compatible, they're also being enhanced. They're also being, up-res the 4K or just the frame rates being unlocked. Those are huge things that I think not a lot of us on the PlayStation ecosystem really think too much about. But if you're an Xbox fan, Microsoft saying, hey, whenever you're ready, these games are here for you. Yeah, nobody's going to run out and play brute force day one, but the option is there for you to go out there and play brute force on day one. The other cool thing that I think is going to be the Achilles heel for PlayStation, in terms of backwards compatibility, is cloud saves, just saves in general. Xbox is just like, hey, play, what is it? Yakuza Like a Dragon, Dirt 5, both of those games have come out going, hey, if you play them on your Xbox, those saves carry over. They don't say those saves do not carry over if you're playing it on the PlayStation 5. We don't know what the reason as to why is, but the thing that really matters is this: that can't happen.
Yeah, we're actually going to be talking about that, Joe, on tomorrow's Breakfast with Boom. I have some thoughts and theories on that, and it's a little unfortunate.
It's not just little. I think it's very unfortunate because, I mean, I think for the most part, it's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things if you're playing a game like Fortnite or Destiny, as those games have proven that they have that cross-generational type of save, like your account's still there, definitely for Fortnite. But when it comes to those single player experiences, the things that you really would want to care about, yeah, that kind of sucks that your saves don't carry over, and it's awesome. And I hope Microsoft takes advantage of that. I think I've already seen a few tweets that they are taking advantage of that fact. So not just seeing that your games carry over, but your saves also carry over on Xbox is a huge appeal, even to me as someone who's like, I don't care if I have to start Bloodborne over again because I love it.
Obviously that's the game of the universe for you.
I mean that's this obvious game of the generation. But like when it comes to what Microsoft has done, they really went the extra mile, and it absolutely shows. And I think that's the thing that I want to underline here is their dedication to games and gamers, and talking a lot. Like as a PlayStation fan, man, I'm not getting nervous. I'm now starting to get frustrated. I have not even seen the UI for this thing. Like Jim Ryan says that there's going to be backwards compatibility and that 99% of all games will, but is that at launch? What do you mean? And can I actually trust what he says? Like there are so many questions on PlayStation's end that it is aggravating as a fan. I don't care what the reason is. If they have like marketing deals or whatever they still have to do for PlayStation 4, I don't care about that. The fact that they still aren't and being so sheepish lends to a huge strength that Microsoft has coming into this generation.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think that all the questions for PlayStation are going to be answered. Hopefully, it's a lot sooner because it's 42 days to launch. Which is, when you think about it, not a lot of time. And Microsoft 40 days respectively. It's going to be interesting. But I agree with you, Joe. I think what Microsoft has done, without being bullish, if you will, is quietly add these little nooks and crannies to the conversation that might normally go overlooked, right? Like cloud saves. No one really equates that. You don't think about it because it goes to the cloud. Who cares where it goes? But all your saves go to the cloud from Microsoft. Whereas, unfortunately for Sony, if you are paying customer of PlayStation Plus, they automatically save. But if you don't, you have to manually save. They allow you for some, I think, but I think you have to manually do that. And so, what if you forget? That'd be a big problem. But one of the features that, for me, because I don't know about anybody on the panel, and I don't know anybody, the nearest 1,700 people here is crazy. We have almost hitting that number. Play multiple games at once. I don't like to do that because a lot of it has to do with the control. If you're playing two really very different controlled games, I find maybe because I'm an old man. I don't know, but maybe it could be something else. I don't like doing that. But one of the really cool features, and Zemi, I want to get your opinion on this, is the quick resume that we saw running. And granted, they're saying up to, we've heard different levels. We've heard up to 10 games. We've heard up to 4 to 6, depending on the size of the game, what generation it's from. I'm assuming that a lot of the newer games, like the Assassin's Creed Valhallas, and the Cyberpunks are going to be so massive that we might only be able to get 4 of those quick resumes. But the fact that that's available, my God, I cannot wait, because to zip around is awesome. What are your thoughts on how they were showing how quick they were able to get from game A to game E in 90 seconds?
Before I touch on that, I actually want to jump into like what Bad Bit and you guys were talking about beforehand with the cloud saves. Like, the cloud saves has to be one of the best features that Xbox added in to this generation console or of consoles, and it is so forward thinking. And of course, you know, backwards compatibility wise, there is that, you know, huge you know, plus, right? But then it actually goes even more than that. I do a bunch of Xbox tutorials. I'm kind of a geek about that. But there are some issues that you face on your Xbox that you have to do a factory reset for, and sometimes you have to do like a very, very thorough factory reset that deletes all of like everything, all your games, every single file, you know, besides the operating system from your Xbox. But because of cloud saves, you will be deleting those saves off, but then you just re-download those saves to your Xbox after you do your factory reset. And so like cloud saves is something that was so forward thinking for Microsoft to add to their console for this generation. I'm glad to see that it's even continuing into next generation with further benefits. But as to your actual question, sorry, I had to geek out about that for a moment.
That's quite all right.
I think Quick Resume is amazing. There are definitely features that I am even more excited about than Quick Resume, but Quick Resume is just another one of those features that is going to save a ton of time for a lot of gamers. Now, you know, the whole, you know, having 12 games on Quick Resume, that is impressive. And of course, that is for, you know, your smaller titles that probably aren't going to take as much RAM to keep running in the background, right? But even with only having 3, 4, 6 games on Quick Resume, I mean, that is plenty. You know, I don't know how many games I'm going to be planning on, you know, bouncing from. But on a typical night, I don't play 6 games. I play maybe 1 or 2, right?
And if Harry Potter comes out, you're not playing anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But see, and I'm like you, Boom, in the sense that whenever I'm playing a single player game, I treat it about like the way I read books. I don't read 12 chapters of one book and then jump over to the next book and read 2 chapters and then go back to the previous book, right? Whenever I play a single player game, I play all of that game before I continue on with the next game, right? So Quick Resume isn't really going to help me on that front, but I also do play a lot of multiplayer games. So being able to play Hogwarts Legacy, and then a buddy sends me a party chat invite and says, hey, you want to go play some Call of Duty? Sure. And I go and I just click on Call of Duty, and it initially loads me into the main menu of the game, and I'm ready to go. And then maybe a few hours later, another buddy hits me up and says, hey, you don't want to play Gears of War or Halo? Same exact thing. And that's just going to save a tremendous amount of time. And for that reason, I mean, and it's just cool, right? So for that reason, I really, really enjoy that feature, and I think it's going to be very, very useful to a lot of people. However, there are definitely other features that excite me even more. You know, such as the reduced latency on the decreased input latency that is coming to these controllers and to these consoles. And you know, a lot of players don't really understand or haven't really experienced this. But I play on PC a lot and I play on Xbox a lot. And whenever I transition, you know, from a first person shooter, playing it on PC like Valorant, and then I go and play some Call of Duty, it is extremely noticeable to me, the latency and it just taking a lot more time. I say a lot, it's milliseconds, but it's noticeable. To shoot my guns and stuff like that. And so there are definitely a lot more features that I'm even more excited about, that being the decreased input latency. But Quick Resume is definitely something I am very excited for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, everything you talked about is all the advantages we're going to have with the Series X that comes out in 40 days. VJ, What were your takeaways from the breakdown from the folks like Digital Foundry and of course IGN? And I didn't see Austin Evans if he did a breakdown or not. I didn't get a chance to watch his video, but I did watch Geoff Grubbs, and Geoff's was fantastic. Geoff has of course become widely known as not only having the hot info, but also just a really cool guy to watch. What are your thoughts on this, VJ?
This panel's far too intelligent, Boom. Going last is always difficult. I like 99.9% of everything, right? Anyway, I'll give it a go. I think if money takes the sting out of being poor, then tech in most cases definitely improves the quality of life. So that's where I'm sitting at the moment. So yeah, Boom, I'm really excited. I think the quick resume feature has been known for a while, and definitely the fast loading features, and this basically equating to having access to several games at your fingertips at lightning speed. Well, you've got to say that's incredibly seductive and efficient, right, from Microsoft's point of view. Being able to jump in and out of different experiences almost instantaneously is perhaps a quality of life feature that all gamers will adore. But for me personally, it's the reason why I'm opting to go digital. It's a godsend, Boom, for me personally, having to get up off the sofa and change disc. I don't want to be doing all that again.
I am feeling you, buddy. I am lazy as
I've seen you on your Twitch streams. I know.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, who wants to do such a barbaric act of opening up a game case and putting a disc into a console?
You know what? I do it. Maybe it's because Mrs. Boomstick and I walk 4.5 miles every Saturday and Sunday. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Sorry, Boom. But besides quick resume, there's other things that interest me, which I think are important as well. What interests me is that there is far more competition and investment going into next generation in terms of the money that's going in. If the investment is like ultimately and hopefully placed into the right hands of the right creators, then I think we're in for a golden age of gaming, and we should really be excited about that. It's always going to come down to the extent in which creators can engage us and the players in imagination. That's paramount, not necessarily the tech. But what is more important than the features and the tech and the price is the access to the expensive hardware. And I've said this before, Boom, and for me, it's Xbox has launched this wonderfully sensible all-access program, and it's available to sign up directly with Xbox or participating partners all over the world. Oh my goodness! Sorry, everyone. I sound like a TV or radio commercial.
No, that's quite all right.
And I said this as well, Boom. I think it's an absolute perfect gateway drug for those of us that can't afford to spend $500 off the bat. And this just further cements what I've been saying throughout the show today, the idea of a community coming together where people from all walks of life and diverse backgrounds enjoying a common theme, which is the joy of video games.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, with that said, I mean, what a show. We got the 5 topics. We had almost 1,700 people here. I mean, this has been P.S. By the way, for a post-show coverage kind of an episode, we have officially broken every possible record, Zemi, that we've ever held for the Xbox Factor podcast on today's episode. And of course, this has been a great ride. Let me catch up with some of these unbelievable super chats that have come in, and then we'll get everyone out of here with the outros. Pixel G, a very generous friend of the show, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, now that we know the PS5 is also using 1440 and then upscaling to 4K, and maybe Series X sometimes too, it makes Series S that much more compelling. Yeah, indeed it does. Indeed it does, especially for a $300 price point. Pete Shirley drops an outstanding $5 super chat, but it's what he says that is really hits me in the ticker. He says, really enjoying the content. 47-year-old gamer with 2 kids under 21. We're a gaming family. Love listening to the people who are my age talk about gaming. Well, thanks, dude. Super appreciate that. I'm glad I can appeal to not only the younger crowd, but of course the older crowd, which I'm a part of. Splatman drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, I stood outside a shop for 2 hours to pre-order 2 Series X's, and I plan to stand from 9 p.m. for the midnight release. I wish I was one of these people that get an early console delivered to my door. Listen, if I don't know if I'm going to be a part of that conversation, I'm hoping that after having Major Nelson on the program, that Microsoft will allot me the opportunity to unbox this thing for my channel. And also potentially even review it. I don't care so much about getting a free console. I have both consoles paid for already, the Series and the Series S and the X. But to get it early, to be able to unbox that for my YouTube channel would be huge. I don't know if I listen. I only have 6,000 subs. I don't know if I fall into the criteria. But I did have Major Nelson on my program, so maybe that equates to something. I don't know. But we have Infrablade dropping a very generous $20 super chat, and he says this: let's talk about Xbox being built-in multiplat with its estimated 50 million prior gen units sold, 90 million monthly live users, more than 1 billion active Windows units. Windows 10 units, and more than 1.8 billion Androids, all treated as Xbox systems. Yeah, that's when you break it down like that, it is pretty impressive what Microsoft has been doing. Splatman drops another outstanding $20 super chat. My goodness, thank you for your generosity. He says Microsoft has made Sony look lazy in all ways in regards to these new consoles, even their marketing. Open and honest. The best marketing I've seen from Xbox. None of this misleading, clever marketing Sony does. Yeah, Sony has, they haven't been as forthcoming as we would all like, for sure. Clapper Dan drops a very generous $10 super chat and says Godfall price on Epic Store is all $10 below PlayStation 5. If PS5 DE pricing is not cheaper, then that's a real screw over. Love the show. Get the likes up, everyone. Well, thank you so much, dude, for being here. Cyber Gunter 81. I got a chance to meet him in person last year at E3's Microsoft's Xbox Fan Fest. Good dude, good friend of both Mrs. Boomstick and I. He says this after dropping a very generous $5 super chat. I knew your channel was going to have this much success. You're an instrumental part of our community. Your panel and your show are world class. Oh, dude, thank you so much. That is extremely kind of you to say. And Restored Hades, very good friend of the show, drops a $5 super chat. It makes me a little worried that Sony didn't do any major upgrades to PSN. First, it was them really talking about back compat, and now this. Yeah, they have a lot of questions, and I don't know when they're going to answer, but hopefully it's going to be much sooner. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for making this one of the most successful Xbox Factor podcasts we have ever done. And that really does mean a lot to me, because my channel is relatively small. And when you see numbers this high, this goes into the line of Rand al'Thor. This gets into the realm of dealer gaming and RDX, and when you start bringing into the conversation Colt Eastwood and Zulker and D-Batch and those folks over there, Tim Dog, when you can potentially put this show, even if it's behind, and it is behind these other two massive Xbox shows, that is saying something. I don't mind being third place. I certainly don't. And I want to thank you for helping me garner this success. And of course, I can't do that without this amazing panel. And we'll start with our outstanding special guest. I can assure you, 3-Bit, this will not be the last invite that you have on this program. Thanks so much for your insight, but more importantly, for being here. Tell everyone about your outstanding YouTube channel, but more importantly, where could people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, so you guys could follow me at the VGHD on Twitter. Pretty new to Twitter, but and my YouTube is the Video Games HD, so it's pretty simple. And Boomstick, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. I just want to say again, the Xbox community is so collaborative, and it's really great to be here. So thank you, chat, and thank you, Boomstick.
Well, thank you for being here. And again, obviously, we're going to talk offline, and we're going to get you back on this program much sooner than later. Love how you handled yourself. You seemed very sensible, and it was great to work with you. And again, we will have you back for, if not this one, definitely on one of my other programs, but whatever works for your schedule for sure. Next up, we're going to go with Mr. Badbit. Mr. Badbit, you obviously are not only a representative of PlayStation, and you have cost me at least $3.50 this year getting you onto this program, and I mean $3.50.
Oh, okay.
Not $350 because I couldn't afford it, but you're always, first of all, you're always welcome here. The community has open arms welcomed you because you are a sensible kind of a fella, and you run a very fantastic, produced PlayStation podcast called The Trophy Room. Why don't you tell people about that program, and also where could people help you get past 2,000 followers on Twitter?
Well, you can find me over at Bad Big Games, where we talk about all things game news, reviews, and unboxings. And that's where you could get the video version of my show, The Trophy Room PlayStation Podcast, where it's me, my best friend Kyle. We talk about the latest, the greatest, not so greatest of all things PlayStation each and every week. This week, we talk about that Spider-Man face-off reveal. Kyle really killed me there. We had a terrific time talking about Spider-Man face-off spin-off movie. Then we talk about Cyberpunk Crunch, PlayStation 5 game launch lineup, pre-orders, and all that good stuff. So you can find that show again over at Bad Big Games, the video version. You can find the Trophy Room on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. And you know what? I'm not going to pimp Mr. Badbit on Twitter. No. Instead, follow PS Trophy Room on Twitter. Let's get that handle over to 1,000 subs.
Okay, that's right now.
We're right now over 640 something. So if we get over to 1,000, I think we can convince Shuhei Yoshida to get on the show.
That would be pretty dope. Who doesn't love Shuhei? I mean, come on. I mean, the guy's he's the face of PlayStation, at least in my opinion. But Joe, thank you so much for being here. We definitely got to get that Trophy Room Twitter account to 1,000. That is obviously it's represented by the two folks that run the Trophy Room, and they are certainly Boomstick approved. Next up, we're going to go with a VJ. VJ, thank you so much for being here. You obviously are not only making the rounds on this podcast, but you've been making the rounds within social media as well. You almost got yourself sick. You did so many podcasts. Thanks so much for being here. Where could people follow you on social media? But more importantly, what other shows are you on?
Well, I just wanted to say something to 3-Bit, as I think you performed admirably today, and far better than I did on my first show. And I've just dropped you a follow, and I really hope to see you again soon on the show. Zemi Games, as always, a pleasure. Mr. Badbit, you're far too intelligent for panels. You should be in politics. And,
let's be clear. I can do it.
And Mr. Boom, I told you when you proposed those topics that were going to appear on this show, I told you they were fantastic. They really struck a chord in me, and I'm so glad. I was astonished when I saw the numbers above 1,500 and 16. I don't know what's going on. You're in somewhere in the stratosphere. I can't even see you now. But thank you always for having me on, and it's much appreciated. And sorry if I went slightly awry on some of the questions you posed, but
no, not at all. I actually find your breakdowns and your opinions definitely thought provoking for sure. So it's definitely welcomed.
Thank you.
Well, listen, VJ. Obviously, you can find. Where can people find you on? Yeah, where can people find you on social media? But what other shows are you on as well?
I'm on with Clowns on Tuesday on 4 Guys with Quarters. So I'm with him as a panel member regularly. I'm also on Green Pass Gaming on Sundays with Puxley and Flat. I'm a panel member over there. And obviously I'm with you on Thursdays, but I do get several invites to various different shows. So if you go online and you see a podcast, I'm probably there somewhere. And you can find me on Twitter at Viewpoint Gaming.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And last and no way least, our resident Braveheart, our resident chef in training, and someone that cannot wait to play Resident Evil 8, The Village. Zemi Games, where could people follow you, potentially learn a recipe or two, and where do you Twitch stream?
I always love how you open me up as Braveheart. Guys, they're not screams, they're battle cries, okay?
Yes, they are.
Anyway, you guys can find me on YouTube. I have 2 different channels. The first one's called Zemi Games, where I do a bunch of gaming content such as gaming news, tutorials, and game reviews. My second YouTube channel is called Zemi Eats, where I post food related content such as cooking videos and food reviews and stuff like that. You guys can also follow me on Twitter at Zimmy Games. And as I do in all of these shows, I always love to, throw it out there to any of you guys listening. My DMs are always open, and I thoroughly enjoy, just talking to anyone out there in the community, listening to, different opinions and stuff like that. I think is so crucial and critical, and helping, shape my own opinions. And so I definitely look forward to it if any of you guys do decide to throw me a DM. And then I am also streaming on Twitch TV. You guys can follow me on there just by searching Zimmy Games, and I stream a variety of different games, RPGs, strategy games, first-person shooters, even some scary games if I have the moral support of Boom beside me. And actually, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be going live. Me and Mr. Boomstick will be going live on my Twitch channel to play Man of Medan, which is a game that we're both thoroughly enjoying.
Yes.
And then Boom, I think you have one more super chat.
Oh, okay.
Just came in.
Let me just see. That is okay. That came from Marlesco, a good friend and generous friend of the show. He says this after dropping a $5 super chat. Much love, Boom and Panel. Well, dude, much love to you as well. Thank you for your support. I see Flamish in the chat. He's going to be making his debut tomorrow morning on Breakfast with Boom that goes live at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have a ton of topics. Now, granted, I can say this publicly, I have not written the show yet. I'm going to write the show when I get back from the doctor, or by taking my sister to the doctor, and I'll get that to the panel members. But it is going to be an action-packed show for sure. But once again, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Of course, I wish you enjoy gaming on whatever console you enjoy gaming on, obviously. And I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me, and hopefully it will be one day important to you. And that's things that these are two things I think the world needs more now than ever. And it's something that my dad taught me when I was a kid, made me a better police officer, but more importantly, made me a better human being. And he used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Take care, everyone.